Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with another decks that I love video talking about some tarot decks that I love that maybe I haven't featured in any of my other videos. But I wanted to kind of share like why I still keep these in my collection and how I use them. Especially if they're not decks that I exclusively use for like my personal readings or for clients. So I do have some that are more like seasonal, and I have some that I bought more as like a case study, if that makes sense. So as someone that has loved and learned tarot over the last like 26 years or so, one of the things that I really love to look back on and kind of utilize as a tool in my own studies is artwork. It's also different systems of tarot, because there's not just the Rider-Waite-Smith. I know that's the most common and typical, and a lot of these are going to be almost like replicates. Wait, is that a word? They're going to be essentially very similar to a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Some of these have really interesting artwork. Most of these are mass produced. So I'm going to talk about decks that like are easily accessible, I believe, on the market and from different publishers and things of that nature. So I think a lot of these are going to be more like US Games, Los Carabel. I think that's US Games too. I don't remember who published this one. Red Feather. I think it's like Wiser Books or whatever is Red Feather and Wiser Books, things of that nature. So I'm going to talk about these decks and kind of show you why I've kept them for so long. So we're going to start with the biggest one over here, which is going to be the Astara Tarot. Now, the reason why I have kept this deck for so many years is because I just think it's really beautiful. I love the artwork, and I mean, green is my favorite color, and I like this kind of soft teal color. It's a nice little box. It's a little different than other tarot decks. You may have seen this on my channel. I love the little bones with the flowers on the back. There is 4 artists that came together to make this deck, and you can see their names there. And I just really love, there's like a whimsical kind of energy to this deck. And I don't know, there's something very, I don't know, it's very evocative kind of artwork for me. So while this is not an exact like Rider-Waite-Smith influence deck in the sense of it's like not a copy of just adding in that artwork with that same kind of energy, I do really appreciate the different artistry. And even if it seems like it's not going to be cohesive, I still like that it is very cohesive regardless. So I'm not going to do like a whole walkthrough of it, but you can kind of get a sense of what the artwork is like and, you know, kind of what's going on. So even though there's very different artistic styles, it's like everything really goes well together. And it's still, you know, again, it looks cohesive. It vibes. And over the years, I've just really have grown fond of using this deck, especially around springtime, when the true astrological year happens. So it is one of these decks that no matter what, I always reach for and utilize a bit. And so you'll see it on my channel as we kind of come closer to spring. I'll start busting it out and using it more often. The guidebook is really nice as well. So if you are someone that maybe struggles with tarot, I like decks that have really nice, meaty books, because I like to understand like why they chose certain artwork or why someone decided to do a certain thing with their artistic choice. So next up, I'm going to talk about the Aquarian Tarot. Now, I just love this kind of Art Nouveau like style. I saw it and I was like, ooh, I just thought it was very beautiful. I don't know, is this Art Nouveau? I forget. But it's more muted. This is a deck from like the 70s. So it is not going to be super vibrant or anything like that, but I just liked the simplicity. Now this is kind of a Rider-Waite-Smith copy, but it seems like everything's more zoomed in. And some of them are a little bit different in the sense of there's still very unique artwork with it because there is that unique artistic interpretation of certain things. So like the Magician looks very groovy, right? So I do really like this deck just because I like the artwork. I think it's fun and I love this small size. As you can see, I think this is like a bridge size. I have small hands, and so to me this is like the perfect size, especially for this many cards. So, and I've just have had this over the years and have just enjoyed it. I think I've had this in my collection for about 10 years. Now, this does not have a big white book. This just has one of these little fold outs, which is nice. But if you are someone that maybe isn't too familiar with reading tarot, you may want to get a guidebook that maybe is a little meatier. I will have to kind of get on here and talk about some of like the tarot books that I recommend for my students that have taken like my tarot classes, and then other books that I just think are really great for the study of tarot. So let's go with this one. So the Golden Art Nouveau. So maybe this one isn't Art Nouveau. What's the other one? Oh my gosh, I can't think of what it is. So if this is Art Nouveau, yeah, this one's Art Nouveau. And again, I kind of am a fan of this kind of like 20s-esque kind of art. And again, I love this size. It's a great size for my small hands. I'm trying not to like get in trouble for there is nudity in some of these, so just FYI. So this is literally a Rider-Waite-Smith copy. It just is drawn with the influence of the Art Nouveau movement. And I can't think of what this is. It's the other one. I can't think of it. And I'm like, I'll think of it later, and then I'm going to be like, oh man. So I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So very beautiful deck. It's just, again, one that I have had for years, and it comes with a little white book in it. Nothing too crazy. So the only thing with this is like, it's not going to always have like on the court cards, it won't have like, you have to kind of understand and know which is which, or else you will get confused. Same thing with the major cards. They're not labeled. So you have to kind of know, oh my gosh, there's always naked people. You're going to have to kind of know what card it is. So like, this is the Chariot. This is the Hanged Man. This is the Emperor. This is Judgment. This is the Sun. So you're going to have to kind of know the cards. This is the Hermit, which I think if you're familiar with the imagery, you will know which one it is. All the nudity. And same thing with the court cards. They're not going to be labeled. None of them are really labeled, if that makes sense. But with the minors, there is a little bit of that being able to have like the number there. So comes in different languages. And so it's just a little tiny white book that has a little bit of information. Again, it's not going to be the most comprehensive way of reading with a deck, if that is something that you struggle with, but it is nice to have something that has at least some keywords. It is very small. So there are some keywords. So if that is something that kind of helps you read, that would be good for your practice as well. So I just think it's cute, and I do love the artwork. It is very like Tarot Mucha style, which I don't know if I've talked about on here, which that's another deck that I really love too. And I've had for years and years and years in my collection. I also have the indie print version of the Ethereal Tarot. All right, next I'm going to talk about a mini deck. I love little mini decks. I think they're cute. I've had many over the years. Actually, in my in-person practice, I usually give away a little card at the end. And this is a really beautiful deck for those that maybe really enjoy fun kind of artwork. I think the artwork is a lot of fun. It's not super crazy. There's little witches and cats all over it. So if you're a witchy cat girl, this is a great deck for that. And it is similar to a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but not overly so. I do like that there are some unique interpretations of the cards, so that's always nice. Like here we have this Five of Swords, the Seven of Pentacles, and I do like that they're all labeled. And I love this little small size. There's the Five of Cups. It's really wonderful for those that maybe like to utilize the artwork as a means of helping you connect to the meanings of the cards. So this is one of those decks that I do recommend to people that don't mind a more feminine forward deck and maybe are looking for something that allows them to kind of tune into that energy. Because here we can kind of see, all right, Seven of Wands, you know, the Ten of Swords. We have the Ten of Wands. We have the Hermit, you know, so we have this beautiful interpretation of each of the cards. And I know that they make this in a standard size, and they also have an Oracle deck, which I have been looking. I really wish that they would make like a mini version of the Oracle deck, because I think that'd be perfect to use with this deck. But yeah, I have bought this deck. I think this is like the third time I've bought this deck again, because I've given away all of the cards or have just kind of, you know, found a way to kind of, you know, lose some of the cards, I guess, along the way. So I love mini decks. I also have a mini Santa Marta deck, which I think I may have talked about in my decks that I use for my altar practices. Maybe not, because that's one that I usually carry with me. So I always forget that I have it in my purse at all times. Yes, I'm one of those ladies that carries a tarot deck with her at all moments. So I just think it's really nice to have a deck that has very evocative artwork. So if you are wanting to kind of connect a little bit more to a tarot deck and you are someone that considers themselves a witch or whatever, this is a great deck for having that kind of energy. And all of the artwork is very detailed. I really, really think it's fun. Kind of looking at everything. Like this is a great Seven of Cups card that kind of shows you the energy of the Seven of Cups. I just really like a lot of that sense of you can almost feel what the message is with each of the cards. So it is one that I always recommend to people because it is so fun. It's very much like almost become like a timeless deck in my mind. And this is the Everyday Witch by Deborah Blake. I'll try to put that back. And the art was by, or is by, Elizabeth Alba. All right. Now, I have talked about this deck on my channel before, and I actually did where I was going to try to use it more often because it is one that I don't usually reach for. And I still don't. So yeah, that's me. That's what I do. It does come with a little white book. This one has a little bit more information, as the Hermetic Tarot is a slightly different tarot system than the Rider-Waite-Smith, because it focuses more on the Golden Dawn tradition. So there is a little bit of a difference on some of the cards. And I really like this because the artwork is, to me, extremely detailed. I love that the information is slightly different than a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. But again, I don't typically reach for it. Now, as someone that loves astrology, I do love that there is the astrological influence of each of the cards on, you know, like within the drawings. And I think that's great. And I also love how, again, how crazy detailed the artwork is, even though there are some that are a little bit more plain like this, like the Seven of Pentacles. So again, it's not a deck that I always reach for or like even remember that I have in my collection, because it's not, to me, it's like one that I'm still trying to study and understand. And I just find it to be a little bit more challenging for me to always grasp some of the concepts that come with the energy of this deck, which I think it's more of like the esoteric kind of energies, or I think a lot of these decks are more based on the like Tree of Life, the Kabbalah, and studies that are a little bit, again, more esoteric than and more occult than what I typically am aware of and currently, studying at this current time. But I like to challenge myself, and that's why I bought these decks. This and the, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, Toth Tarot. So I wanted to have different decks that are a little bit different than the Rider-Waite-Smith, because I understand that tarot is a very old system and most people kind of default to the Rider-Waite-Smith. It's just more well known. But I do like to kind of challenge myself by getting out of my comfort zone, because I did learn to read on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So I think if you are someone that is a little bit more into the esoteric knowledge, this is a great one to have. And I think the artwork is just stunning. It's just very detailed. People's artistry always amazes me. In another life, I should have been an artist, because I do not have the talent this lifetime. But it is very interesting. And the other thing that kind of stands out to me about this deck is like these like labels and things like that. And again, because I'm not super well versed in it, I'm not like in a space where I understand how that adds into everything. But the little white book is always a good one to kind of start off with. Again, this is another one that I'm like, I have the intention of really studying and getting into more like of the esoteric knowledge that comes with tarot decks. So, and it's an older deck, I think. I think this was originally published, does it say? 1979, and then a reprint in 2006. So it's a slightly older kind of deck. All right, moving on to the Aleister Crowley Toth Tarot. This one is just beautiful. It has that kind of interesting artwork that I just love. And we do have this lovely little guidebook that comes with it, a little bit meatier. It's not just like a fold out. And it does have some information in it. And again, I find this information to be so different than what would be in a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And I just think it's so fascinating. And then there's some differences in this deck as well as the Hermetic Tarot, where they call it princess instead of pages, like things of that nature, the prince instead of the knight. And this one is more of that kind of, this like style. And I cannot think of what this is called because my brain is literally not there at the moment, because I have the Justice League deck that's also in this kind of style. It's not, I want to say Art Nouveau, but it is not. There's another art movement, and now my brain is literally forgetting everything. But it is very beautiful. Again, very interesting artwork. I think that there's a lot of like crossover between the Hermetic Tarot and the Toth Tarot. I know that there are some differences, so don't like clock me for that. But I think that it is very much that kind of more esoteric, more leaning towards the occult kind of energy that I think is a little bit different. And I think this one's interesting too, because it'll just be like ruin. It just has like keywords on it that are interesting, because here we have what I think this is the Six of Pentacles. This is success. So it's just very interesting and different energy than maybe I'm used to. But there's some beautiful, beautiful artwork here. And I'm like so irritated that I cannot remember what kind of art this is, because my brain is just not about it today. I'm not trying to make this a super long video, so we're not going to go through every single card. And you'll see me use this every once in a while. Again, this is another deck that I am trying to make time to kind of study and understand and read up on, because that's something I like to do. Is I will, get books specific to certain practices, and I like to kind of read and educate myself because it's fun. So it is one of these decks. Again, I don't always reach for it. I find that it's, I feel like all of my decks all have like their own personalities, and especially tarot decks. Some of them are kind of sassy, and I feel like the Hermetic Tarot and the Toth Tarot are very sassy. So finally, I'm going to talk about this one. This was a gift that somebody sent me, and The Influence of the Angels Tarot. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. This is from US Games. Really lovely guidebook as well. So if you are someone that maybe likes to have meaty books with your deck, this is a great one. I mean, it's not a ton of information, but it does have enough for you to kind of build out your own tarot practice. And this is going to be a Rider-Waite-Smith kind of base deck, more so than like the other one. So I have a lot of Rider-Waite-Smith base decks. I think that's kind of the more common or popular deck that you will see out and about. And it has like some nice gilding. It almost reminds me a little bit of like the Visconti Forza deck, which this is more of the like Renaissance kind of artwork versus that kind of like more, what is it? I don't think it's like Baroque, but that kind of, this is like more of the, like, I don't know. It's very beautiful artwork, and I don't know if this is all stuff that maybe they've put together from other art pieces that are out there. I'm trying not to get in trouble with some nudity here. And so it is more of, there's like angels obviously kind of throughout the deck because it is talking about the influence of angels. And these cards are labeled, which I think it's interesting to have like this moon card with all these little like creepy demon things underneath. So if you are someone that likes kind of this angelic Renaissance kind of vibe for artwork, I think this is a fun one to kind of lean into and use. It is one that I use more for clients than for myself. So I think it's lovely because it's not super offensive in the sense of there's not a lot of nudity or whatever, but there is a lack of diversity. So that is something that I'm trying to kind of move into, getting decks that don't really feature a lot of people, because that is something I did for a lot of years, where I would use more of like the Wildwood Tarot or like the like animal based decks or landscape ones or something, like not really having a lot of like people on them, because I didn't want it to be something that made people uncomfortable if they did not see themselves in the cards. And as someone who is, you know, Mexican as well, it's not always the nicest thing to not really see myself in my decks as well. So yeah, so these are just different tarot decks that I haven't possibly mentioned on my channel or in some of my other videos that I've put together for this little series that nobody asked for, but I thought would be interesting. So let me know, what are some decks that you love that are maybe in your tarot collection, if you have a collection. What kind of decks do you tend to go for? I have tried to be a little bit more open in the sort of artwork and decks that I add into my collection. I try not to add too many that are too similar. So that is something I've been really trying to do, of like really not curating, but really focusing on having decks that have very different energies to them so that I can kind of tune in as necessary and needed. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.